Enigma is an action-adventure game that was released for the PlayStation in Japan only in 1998 that sees the plot being set in the 1920s, with the game featuring 3 playable characters who are tasked with travelling the world to visit various ruins and temples that will require you to solve puzzles in order to achieve specific outcomes, with the main plot of the story understanding that an archaeologist disappeared. So each of the characters goes on a journey or a quest to unearth the story behind why the archaeologist disappeared. And each of the characters that you play as in the game, which you'll play at different intervals, all have intertwining stories which will connect further into the game that you get. But what's interesting about this game is the fact that even with all of the explorative elements and the characters that you can use, the game is played from a very similar format to that of survival horror games. When you look at the likes of the original Resident Evil games, it uses pre-rendered backgrounds with fixed camera perspectives, but the characters and interactable objects for the most part will mainly be in 3D, very like the Resident Evil games. There's a lot of exploration to be had, but at the same time the game can be quite tricky to understand because it's still in Japanese, so the language barrier will make it tricky for people to understand really what's going on, especially with solving puzzles and trying to figure out where to go to next, which will often lead to you getting stuck in rooms or areas and you're not really sure what to do or where to go in order to proceed. While the majority of the game, especially in the beginning, will see you just running around the place and looking for items of interest and exploring, eventually later on in the game you will have some elements where you'll have to engage in combat, even with fighting and weapons and so forth, in order to defeat enemies. But there's more exploration, more so than anything else. Upon the game's release, it was met with fairly decent reviews, stating that they liked the gameplay elements, and the fact is that it took inspiration from very popular games on the PlayStation itself. Now, not everybody likes tank controls, but you cannot deny that the PlayStation was a powerhouse for this style, even with games that use pre-rendered backgrounds. Like, even for me personally, while back in the day I knew nothing about this game, I didn't even know it existed up until recent years, but when I seen it, and I did manage to play it, I covered it in a previous video, I'll leave a link in the description, where we looked at a load of like horror games and games of a similar caliber, and I just love this visual style. Like, when I really think about it, if I take racing games out of the equation, this style of game using fixed cameras and pre-rendered backgrounds is my favourite style of game to play, especially on the PlayStation. So it left me intrigued to try and find out more about the game and even to try and get into it and play it, which I did, but mind you, I did get stuck, and again, due to the language barrier and trying to figure out what to do, as it isn't always apparent on where to go to next. But with trial and error you'll be able to figure it out, and hopefully at some point there will be some form of fan translation, which I think is definitely needed to make this more appealing, especially to audiences over here in Europe. But hopefully one day we'll get that. But there's definitely enough here for fans of these style of games, with exploration, finding items, collecting documents, solving puzzles, and even engaging in combat with various types of monsters and enemies that you will have to face. And there is certain elements and hidden features that you can unlock upon completing the game, so there is more than enough elements and sequences to make you want to go back and try and acquire everything that is available in the game. So what I have played of it, it is an interesting title, something that I think does require a bit more time and dedication to really fully understand what's going on. But the one thing I love about this era of games is, like this here, like many other titles, showcases the experimental nature of games that were being developed, and this visual style is proof that these experiments, while they may not appeal to everybody, they definitely appealed to the majority of players, and they are interesting. They offer something different and dynamic that we normally don't see, and we definitely don't see it today, which I do think that we need to see more of, because with the landscape of games in the modern era, while yes, there is a lot of people out there that genuinely don't like this style, or even with the control elements, but there's so much of a diverse market that you can still make games like this today that will appeal to a specific style of player, even like myself, that will enjoy them for what they are. And there's enough fans out there that definitely will play them, so it will be interesting to see more games like this come to the forefront, or even to see these older games be revisited, like say with fan translations, to make them more approachable for modern audiences. games. That would be very, very cool. But with that being said, I would love to know your thoughts of this game and what do you think of it. Have you played it yourself? Are you a fan of this style of game that was on the PlayStation and even other consoles similar to it of the time? Or did you even know anything about it? So be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around other types of games like this that were released on the PlayStation, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can check out this playlist here on screen where we will look at a lot more of those games so that you can see them in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.